This conference will now be recorded.
So thanks everybody for joining. For those who don't recognize my voice, this is Cortland Russell. I'm the president and CEO for oSTEM, and I am the main person that many of you have probably been working with throughout the course of this conference season, and probably for some of you for a few years now. Do have a couple of other folks on my team who are on the line today. So we have Michael Watson, as well as David Falk, who are also part of the sponsorship team and may be jumping in throughout points in the conversation today. Just wanted to give a shout out to them and all the work that they've been doing for our conference. And then we have a full conference team who some of you have probably heard from our programming team or logistics team, who help to make the conference run and make sure that it's an enjoyable experience for all. But today's conference session is really for those folks who have basically committed to being a sponsor for this year's oSTEM conference. And we wanted to share some additional logistical information with you all. So if you have questions as we're going through, feel free to drop those into the chat. I'll make sure to kind of touch on those as we go through. And then we'll have some time at the end of this presentation for you all to ask questions that may be pertinent to the rest of the folks here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in and talk a little bit about what we're going to share today. So I do want to share about our logistics information page. This is, as I said in the logistics email I sent out to all of you, is your best friend when it comes to knowing everything about oSTEM conference and your participation this year. I want to cover a couple of critical dates, which are also highlighted on that page. Talk a little bit about our conference schedule and some of the programming changes that we've made this year, as well as some highlighting some programs that we would really like for your team to participate in. I know Expo booths and recruiting at our Career and Graduate School Expo is a hot topic for many of you, and so we'll talk a little bit about the Expo booths. I want to highlight a new resource for conference participants this year that we'd love to get a submission from each of you to be a part of, and that's our Know Before You Go packet. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then I want to share some tips and tricks for maximizing your sponsorship before we pop into questions at the end. So first things first is our conference sponsor logistics page. So we have a page that we've created in past years. It's been a packet, but we wanted something where we could direct folks to that didn't have to be sent around, that wasn't a huge multi-gigabyte file in order to be able to share information about the conference. And so we have a logistics page with pretty much everything you would need to know when it comes to participating in this year's conference. And so as you can see, the topics that are covered are things very similar to what we'll talk about today around key deadlines and milestones, Expo booth information, travel logistics, etc. And today will be a little bit of a higher level version than maybe some of the super details that are in this page, but most of your questions can be answered on this sponsor logistics page. And if you haven't had a chance to go out there and check that out, I'd certainly encourage you to do so. So some critical dates. So one that's right around the corner that I wanted to make sure that you all knew about was our awards applications. And I won't get too deep into our awards because there is a whole page that talks about it. But specifically for sponsors, there are 3 awards that we would love to get some submissions into for this year. And we've already had a few of you who've taken advantage of that opportunity to submit those awards. And so we have two awards that we're bringing back from previous years. So our Strategic Alliance Award, which is an award awarded to an organization. So that's a kind of your whole company or your whole graduate program could potentially apply for that organizational level award. We have a Partner Excellence Award, which is focused on an individual, an outstanding individual within your organization who's doing great things and deserves that recognition. And then we have a new award this year, which is our LGBTQ Employee Network of the Year award. And we coined this as a group award, so organization award, individual award, and a group award, because obviously your LGBTQ employee network, if you have one of those, is a subset of your employees, and so we want to highlight some of the great work that they're doing. And so we have those three distinct separate awards that we would love to get some applications in. And as I said, the application deadline for that is really tomorrow. So it's right around the corner here. So would love to see some submissions from you all. Other important dates, so booth selections begin October 16th, and I will emphasize begin because there's a full schedule of when those booth selections happen based on your sponsorship level, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the course of this presentation. Our hotel block closes in just a couple of weeks, and we had some great pickup on that so far. So that closes in 3 Fridays from now on October 18th. And I've had some sponsors ask, are we really supposed to be the ones who book into that block? We don't want to take, discounted room rates away from any students who are attending. And so should we just kind of book through our company portals? Now, if you do have policies and procedures within your organizations that require you to use some sort of travel booking portal, totally understand, but we would love for you to use our hotel block if that's feasible for you. Reason being is that the hotel that we use, pretty much in all hotel contracts, is basically a certain amount of minimum that we have to meet in that hotel block, and that's how we're able to get space to put on the conference. So we want that hotel block as full as possible, just so we make sure that we meet our contract with the venue. We have about a month away from our big date on here, which is November 1st. So you see there's quite a few things that are due on that November 1st date. So sponsorship payments, I know there's a couple of groups who we need to wait on the sponsorship payments, and I have those recorded, but sponsorship payments for the most part are due November 1st. Your ads or logos, so everyone needs to submit a logo, and some of you need to submit ads based on your sponsorship level. Those are all due November 1st, and that is a hard date if we don't have that ad or logo by that time. There's a high likelihood it won't be included in any of the printed materials that we have for the conference. Individual registration closes on November 1st, so making sure that all of your team members who are participating in the conference as a part of your organization, making sure that all of them are individually registered and have gone through that registration process by November 1st, highly important. And then the know before you go information that we'll talk a little bit about further in this presentation, that is also due by November 1st. You have a few extra days on your booth materials, so anything that you're shipping to the conference is not due until November 12th. We'll talk a little bit more about Expo booth materials as well in this presentation. Now there's other dates other than these. These were kind of the ones that were the most critical, but that sponsor logistics page that I mentioned at the beginning will have all of the dates that are relevant for you all. Okay. So I wanted to highlight also our conference schedule. And so our schedule is a little bit different from previous years, and you'll definitely notice that in how it's spread out on the page here if you've been with us in previous years. So you'll notice specifically that we have a little bit more of a heavy schedule on Friday. So based on participation from our students and feedback from you all, we heard, Friday, Saturday are really kind of the critical dates that folks try to be there. And so we've shifted some of our programming up on Friday, and you'll notice specifically kind of that 1 to 4 slot on Friday for the Career and Graduate School Expo. We actually have part 1 of a 2-part Career and Graduate School Expo on Friday. So you'll kick off, much of the activity for the conference is really going to start on this Friday, including some of that expo time. And we'll talk about a couple of additional things that I want to highlight on this on the next slide. But that's kind of one of the key things, is that we have more programming on Friday. You'll also notice on Sunday that we have some additional long form programs. So our organizational advisory council meeting is on that, I'm sorry, on Sunday. Our organizational advisory council meeting is on that Sunday. We have a gender affirmation symposium, mentorship summit, and chapter leadership summit. So we don't have those workshop blocks like we've had in previous years on Sunday. Now, for those of you who are participating in the hackathon, and the hackathon really is open to anyone who would like to participate who has a full conference registration. Hackathon is kind of the earliest thing that we have in our schedule, and that starts at 9 a.m. on Thursday and runs until 12 p.m. on Friday. So we have kind of a front-loaded hackathon similar to previous years, but just wanted to call that out that any person is able to participate in that hackathon program if they do have that full conference registration. Okay. So there are a couple things in the schedule that I specifically wanted to go into. So I talked a little bit about we have that extended expo time that was specifically based on feedback from our sponsors and a conversation that we had with our organizational advisory council this year. We also expanded that Friday programming and added the Sunday symposium programming. Now, one thing that you might not notice from that schedule is that we don't have sponsor information sessions anymore. Our platinum sponsors had the opportunity to get a guaranteed program block, and for those of you who are platinum sponsors, many of you took advantage of that benefit for this year. So that took over the portion of time that we were using for those sponsor information sessions. But specifically, what I wanted to call your attention to is some of the programming in the second half of this slide around things that we really want to make sure that your team is aware of and that you're aware of. And I'll start at the top with our Allyship in Motion session. And this is really a deep dive session that was developed by our diversity and inclusion team. And they are intending for folks who have a strong passion for diversity and inclusion, who want to really stand out as allies amongst the crowd, to go through this multi-part allyship building workshop. And the Allyship in Motion session does have a limit in the number of folks who are able to register for that program. You're able to select and share that you're interested in attending that program as a part of your conference registration if you're a full conference attendee, but you're also able to send an email to our diversity team at diversity@ostem.org and let them know that you're interested in attending that Allyship in Motion session. And we are going to try to limit it to one person per organization, and we just because there is limited space for that session. So just think wisely about who you might want to have that session. To who you might want to have in that session. And that person, each person who completes that Allyship in Motion session will receive an additional badge flag to wear on their conference badges so that attendees know that you completed that session. And I would ask, if you're not talking, if you wouldn't mind going on mute, that would be excellent. The second session is our new to the conference session. That kicks off on Friday morning, and this is especially helpful, maybe not for you all who are veterans of the program, but if you have new folks joining your team who've never been to an oSTEM conference before, encouraging them to go to the new to the conference session may be particularly helpful in helping them to get their feet under them when it comes to what's going on at the conference. We also are bringing back our career and graduate school boot camp. It's a little bit earlier this year, so it's 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. On Friday. So before we have our first career and graduate school expo time. And this is an opportunity for you to have a first look at some of the conference attendees. We'll be asking them to bring resumes and CVs with them, have opportunity for you to do some review of those resumes and CVs, to maybe help out with elevator pitches and other activities that help them to be better prepared for that career and graduate school expo. So that's one of your first times that you get a real chance to talk about what are the interests of conference attendees and start having some of those career and graduate school conversations. Um, I already highlighted that we have those 2 career and graduate school expo times. Those will be particularly important. If you have folks who are expo only registrants from your organization, those are the times that you should give to them to make sure that they are aware and coming into the conference space at those times. They won't be able to participate in any of the other programming that's happening around the conference, but they'll be able to participate in those expo times. And just a quick note on those Expo only registrants, if you do have an interview booth, which I know is a smaller number of you, they are able to also participate at your interview booth and conduct interviews specifically. So just make sure that you highlight those times for your Expo only registrants. We also have a sponsor representative meeting on Saturday, so that's from 12:30 to 1:30, and we really don't need your whole team there for that session. That session really is for maybe 1 to 2 representatives from your organization to hear more about what is coming up for our 2020 conference, learn more about the sponsorship levels that are available for that, provide any feedback for this year that you'd like to share with the larger group, and so would love to have a couple of representatives from your organization there at the sponsor representative meeting. And then the last but certainly not least is poster judging. So we always have a need for more poster judges. We typically have 50 or more posters every year. And because the poster judging session does overlap with the expo, we do have a harder time finding folks who are able to do that judging. So if you can spare a member of your team who's particularly interested in the poster session portion of things, or you think might be a great person to talk with some of the students and professionals who are doing research and sharing their research via their posters, we'd love to have volunteers for our poster judging session. Okay. So Expo booth, right? We talked a little bit about the Expo. We are partnering with Source One again this year, so they are our vendor for Expo booths. You can find a lot more information about the services that they offer. If you want to purchase additional things for your booth, you are more than welcome to do that directly through Source One, and you can find their exhibitor services manual here. Specifically, what comes with a standard booth, you see the booth size is 8 by 10 booths. You have a table, 2 chairs, a wastebasket, and an ID sign. So just kind of the basics of what you would need in order to set up your booth. Not very different from previous years. Of course, if you have a double booth, the size of that increases, which I know that some of you do because you've purchased additional booth space or you're a platinum sponsor with that double booth space. And then I talked a little bit about booth selection. So for those of you who might be OAC members, you've already selected your booth during our OAC meeting earlier this month. So your booth is all locked and ready to go. For those of you who are non-OAC members, but you are platinum sponsors, you'll start your booth selections on the 16th. And you see that every couple of days thereafter, we open up booth selections to additional levels below that platinum level. And we plan to close our booth selections by October 30th. So any folks who haven't made booth selections by October 30th will be assigning booths by that time. Okay. So wanted to talk a little bit about the Know Before You Go packet, which I said is a new thing for this year. So during our sponsor feedback session last year, there seemed to be a lot of interest in wanting to make sure that attendees were more aware of the opportunities that you had available and any requirements that you had for positions ahead of time. And so what we've done, as opposed to having the attendees have 15 different badge flags that try to decipher who it is that they are, we're asking for you all to provide a little bit more information about who you are and what you're looking for. And so we intend to provide this packet to attendees so that they can help prepare for the conference ahead of time, and so that they're ready to talk to you when they come to the conference. So we ask questions like, give us a little bit of a description about your organization and the industry that you work with, the current type of opportunities that are available. Maybe you have research opportunities. Maybe you're looking for internships or full-time candidates. Maybe you're looking for folks who are early career or mid-career or new graduates. Lots of different ways that you can kind of think about the type of applicant you're thinking about. A big one is, do you have any citizenship or work authorization requirements for your organization? I know that we have a lot of folks who are in kind of the defense and government space, and so that tends to be a big one. I know for you all, making sure that folks come in with certain requirements, and it's not always a comfortable or even allowable topic for you to ask up front in the process, and so we want to make sure that folks are coming up to you already knowing what your requirements are for your positions, any majors you're interested in, geographic preferences, etc. So there's lots of information you can provide as a part of this Know Before You Go packet, and we will have a digital version of that packet available to conference attendees prior to the conference so that they're able to do a little bit of a deep dive on each of the organizations that are present and that submit information for that packet. And we'll have a very kind of a two-page summary of that packet included in the program book, which will include your booth numbers and other you know, relevant information about your organization in the program book so that they have a quick reference guide on the day of the conference. But as much of that information as you can get in ahead of time, we'd love to get that information from you. This is open to all sponsorship levels, so we did not restrict it to any particular level or type of sponsor. We want all of you to submit and be part of this packet, but you do have to submit in order to be part of the packet and in order to have that information included and shared prior to the conference with attendees. Perfect. So just a little bit more information here before we move into the questions section of things. So wanted to, I often get the question, especially from new folks, but maybe even some folks that are returning, how do we get the most out of our sponsorship? How do we maximize our return on investment when it comes to participating in the conference? Specifically, in advance of the conference, submitting information to that Know Before You Go packet, reaching out to conference attendees in advance. So some of you, as a part of your sponsorship, get the contact information for all of the attendees that will be there. Others of you get resumes and CVs. Even more of you also get access to oSTEM Careers to be able to submit job postings to oSTEM Careers, and utilizing those three resources strategically prior to attending the conference to encourage folks to know a little bit more about your organizations and what opportunities that you have available would be super helpful. Signing up for, encouraging your attendees to sign up for things like the hackathon, poster judging, and submitting nominations for the awards will also get you some recognition and additional opportunities to connect with conference attendees. Contacting chapters that you might already have a relationship with to see if they'll attend. So we do try to get every single chapter in our network to attend, but not all of them end up attending at the end of the day every year. So if there are particular chapters that you want to know, hey, are you going to be there? We've had this great relationship with you all, encouraging those chapters to attend and asking them if there's any things that are keeping them from attending would be an awesome thing to kind of show that it's that relationship is kind of a long-term relationship. Educating your team about pronoun usage and encouraging allyship and motion attendance. So the worst thing I think that could happen when it comes to conference participation for many of our sponsoring members is that attendees are not able to hear the great message or great opportunities that you have because maybe some of your team members are not as educated when it comes to using they them pronouns, especially with conference attendees. We have a lot of gender queer and gender non-conforming attendees, and they do talk to each other, right? So we want you all to put your best feet forward, and we know that you all want to do the same. And so we kind of having a conversation ahead of the conference with those attending from your organization about some best practices when it comes to LGBTQ inclusion would be excellent. And we'll be sharing some more information to help you prepare for those conversations as we get closer to the conference. Specifically at the conference, we want oSTEM to be a family atmosphere. We want you to participate in as many things as possible. So if you have that full conference registration attendee badge, then you are able to participate in almost all programming and networking opportunities. The only things that are closed off to you are the community breakout sessions. If you are not part of one of the communities that those community breakout sessions are serving, or our organizational advisory council meeting if you are not part of that OAC. But pretty much everything else in the conference you are able to attend. And so we'd encourage you to participate in that programming. Um, Making contact with those chapters. So I talked about chapters where you already have a relationship, but if you are looking to build a relationship with particular chapters in your region, we do have regional breakout sessions as a part of the conference, and encouraging some of the folks from your organizations to go to those regional breakout sessions, especially if there's a particular region where your operations are based and you want to build relationships in that region. Going to those sessions to meet chapter leaders and get connected with those chapters in a more face-to-face environment has tended to produce better long-term relationships. And really bringing your full authentic LGBTQ self and encouraging your attendees to do the same. If you're not LGBTQ identified, especially encouraging your LGBTQ employees and attendees to bring their full authentic self is super important, and genuineness gets you a long way with our conference attendees. So would encourage you to kind of bring that full self. So I do want to share just a couple of additional opportunities that are still open. So we have pretty much sold out of almost all of our conference sponsorship opportunities at this point. We've actually sold out all of our expo booths, all of our interview booths, and all of our meal sponsorships have all been purchased at this point. But we do have our conference bag sponsorship of 5K is still open and available. And then additional opportunity outside of this year's conference is we are going to be sending out an email to all of our sponsors, current and past, letting them know about an opportunity to host the oSTEM Leadership Program in 2020. So we're looking for a site to be able to host that leadership program that targets around 60 chapter leaders from across the country to spend a weekend in an offsite retreat. And so we'll be sending out more information about the opportunity to potentially host that retreat, and looking for somebody in the Los Angeles area so that we have an opportunity to still see our venue for Anaheim 2020. That's where our conference is going to be next year. And then, of course, the opportunity is always open for you to join the oSTEM team, or to have one of your team members join the oSTEM team and express their volunteer interest. So that's a constantly open opportunity for anybody who is interested. So I know I've shared a lot with you all over the course of the call, but wanted to leave a good amount of time at the end for any questions that might be stewing or that might have come up as a result of today's conversation. So I'll give an opportunity for anybody to ask those questions now if you have anything. And feel free to either come off mute or to put anything into the chat box.
So Cortland, this is Bo Williams with Boeing, and the one question that I have that seems to be prevalent this week is the conference package, and forgive me, I dialed in about 5-10 minutes late,
Sure.
so if you spoke about it, I apologize. But the conference package that comes out that if we want to get the additional or get the interview booths, if we need to work with the host hotel and the logistics company to get our to get all of our material shipped and to the right place at the right time so that we can get everything set up. Has that come out yet, or is that coming out, or where can I go get it?
Yeah, so the Expo, I think you're talking about the Expo manual. And so that is linked here in this presentation. It's also linked on that sponsor logistics page. So you can find all of those, all of that detail in there. It does have more information about if you want to order additional things for your booth, if you want to get electrical for your booth, all of that information is in there. It does not include interview booths. So I mentioned that we are sold out of interview booths currently, and working with the hotel to see if we have other options there. But it does have all of the other pieces of information that you might need around your exhibitor services. And then I know that I also provided all of our contacts, our main contacts for your organizations over to our Expo vendor. And if they haven't already, they should be reaching out with the same information. But if you would like to, you can get it right from this link or from the link in the logistics packet or logistics page, excuse me.
Okay, and on the logistics page, if I'm looking in the right area, it says download our 2019 sponsorship packet and commitment form. Is that the link, or is it something different?
No, so that is the sponsor page that you're looking at. So the logistics page looks something like this. And under Expo booth information, and this was sent out in the logistics email that I sent to all of the sponsors. So under Expo booth information, you'll see the Source One Exhibitor Services Manual linked there. And I'll ping this packet into, or I'll ping this link into the chat box now, just in case
Great, thank you.
folks did not see it. Yep. Any additional questions?
Hey, Cortland, it's Carrie from Texas Instruments.
Hey, Carrie.
Hi. Just going back to the allyship, you said probably just one person per group would make sense.
Yes, typically one
Okay.
person. We are limiting that session to probably only 40 to 50 folks being able to participate.
Okay.
So that's about one person per sponsoring organization.
And would you prefer to have an ally or someone who identifies as LGBTQ?
Either would be appropriate for that session. So they'll be talking a little bit about, and I will actually pull up, I'm just going to go to our conference schedule really quickly and pull up the allyship in motion. So they're going to be talking about an honest conversation about race and ethnicity in STEM,
Okay.
LGBTQ plus STEM challenges, non-binary and trans-identified individuals, and then they're also putting on an additional module during the conference workshop blocks around LGBTQ plus ERGs and why do we need them. So there's additional information if you go to our conference schedule. So go to the conference schedule. And there is a whole linked PDF on what is all about that allyship in motion
Okay.
session.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome. Additional questions?
Super thorough. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. If you do have additional questions, always feel free to reach out to us first, sponsorship@ostem.org. I would say we are the best team for you to go to because we have the full context of who you are and what your participation is in the conference and what your sponsorship includes and all of those details. So always feel free to come to us first, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have coming out of today's conversation or leading up to the conference. But I want to thank you all for taking the time today out of your busy schedules to be able to share in today's conversation. And hopefully you're able to productively use the 25 or so minutes that we're able to give back to you all today. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Cortland.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cortland.
Yeah.